You're listening to the Into the Woods podcast with your hosts, Dermot and Michael. Let's get into it.
Wonderful chase by Hinshaw.
Cox again. I cannot believe it. Dacos nearly runs out of room. He's goal. Jamie Elliott has won the game of footy for this famous club. Slap for Nick Dacos. He's going to be the hero. The little champ is going to pick the winner.
Here's the Degoe moment. He unloads. Bang! You need your stars. And Collingwood stars just went and wrenched the cup back.
Welcome to Into the Woods. I'm your host Dermot, and for the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all things Collingwood. If you want to join the conversation, be sure to follow our socials. You can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Once again, I'm joined by Michael. How are you, Mick?
Good, thank you. Good.
We've got a huge episode today. A big episode. We need to get through a lot, even before Hot Topics. I've got a lot on the plate here. You know a little bit about it. I've kept you in the loop. But now it's time. We've got some, what would you call it? Some breaking news on the Into the Woods podcast, or some, I don't know, a really exciting announcement that we're going to talk about in just a second.
Okay, right.
Well, are you excited from what I've told you?
From experience, I know not to get excited about your promises, then.
But before we get into that, I just wanted to touch on something that we spoke about very, very late in the last podcast. I think it was the last one we spoke about at about, an hour and a half in. And I'm not sure how many people make it to the end of our podcast. Like, an hour and a half is a long listen. I'm sure our diehard fans out there get through it. But it's not something that I personally want to touch on every week.
You preempt things. You're preempting of what you're going to say takes longer than what you actually have to say. Why don't you just say it instead of this long preamble?
Well, I know you don't like me talking about it, but basically, we're absolutely pumped with how much this podcast has grown, especially in the last 12 months. Because halfway through last year, it was looking pretty grim, wasn't it? It was looking we nearly pulled the pin because it was looking a little.
I was enjoying it, and
enjoying it was different to
I think
for putting out a podcast with about 10 listeners.
I thought it was funny.
It was a lot of work, especially when you didn't know what you were doing and all the editing and stuff, and we weren't getting a reward. But 12 months on, it's gone bang. It's gone bang. We between the three platforms, we've grown a lot in 12 months, and it's exciting. And we want to continue to grow. And for us to continue to grow,
This is what exciting feels like, is it?
this isn't the exciting news. This is before we get to the exciting news.
Okay, good. Get to the exciting bit.
For us to continue to grow, we'd be so grateful if you're watching us on YouTube, if you could just give us a thumbs up on this video, and any future videos as well.
Please like me.
As well as subscribing to the channel. That would just make a huge difference as we continue to grow. And if you're listening to us on Spotify and Apple, if you can just also subscribe on those platforms and give us a 5-star rating, that would be fantastic. It will really help us grow. And as you're about to find out,
I've got a question.
We want to continue to grow this podcast, and we've got an exciting announcement just after Michael asked this question.
I know I've asked this before, but I don't quite understand. What is the advantage of having subscribers? Like, what's the whole point of subscription?
This could be a conversation between you and I off air. I don't think the listeners care about that.
But it seems to be something people really seek. From what you told me, it's just that they get notified of our episodes. Is that correct?
We'll talk about it later,
Oh,
Michael. This is not very interested in talking about how subscribing to channels work.
well,
But
it would be quicker just to give me the answer rather than tell me how the question was irrelevant. But anyway, give
the
me.
exciting news. The exciting news. So Michael and I have put our thinking caps on, and when I say Michael and I mean me because Michael contributes absolutely nothing. In saying that, he does come up with the names to each podcast. So whenever you see that. That is Michael. Some of them are very good. Some of them are quite ordinary, like the name for this podcast, which I'm not a
I've
fan
been
of.
hanging out for that.
It,
I've been
it-
waiting for it the whole year.
it's
It's fantastic.
it's not very funny,
But back in the day, if I was like watching Petticoat Junction of an afternoon, I knew the next episode of Petticoat Junction would be at 4:30 the next day. So they already know roughly when we put out our podcast, don't they? Do they really need to be notified of it?
are you still talking about that? Okay, so the exciting news, and you may notice that there's been a bit of editing because I stuffed this up about 3 times and then Michael pissed himself laughing. But the exciting news is that we're going to be doing a bonus episode of Into the Woods of the first Tuesday of every single month. And when I say a bonus episode, it isn't going to be like our regular episodes where it's just you and I sitting here talking shits, going through the regular segments. It's going to be completely different. We will both be involved, but what we want is for the listeners, the Into the Woods community, to get involved in this bonus episode. And what I mean by that is every single month we want 3 of our listeners to join us as a panel, basically. So the 5 of us will sit down via Zoom. So unfortunately, if you don't have Zoom, you can't be a part of it. So if you want to be a part of it, make sure you have a Zoom account. And every single month it'll be like a rotating panel. So we don't want the same 3 people every single month. We want to change it up a bit. Maybe after a while, if you're a real natural behind the mic and we like what you do, maybe you can become semi-regular. Come on every couple of months or whatever. But that's yeah. So basically, it's going to be like a panel. The 5 of us will sit down. We'll just discuss all the relevant topics. There won't be segments and stuff. We have a bit of a rundown, so and we'll kind of guide the conversation, or I will, and you'll just be sitting there like you are right now.
This is innovative. Petticoat Junction never did anything like this.
But yeah, so basically, if you want to get involved in this, chuck me a DM on Instagram at IntoTheWoodsPod10 or on Twitter at IntoTheWoodsPod. If you don't have either of those platforms, maybe comments on the YouTube video or on Spotify and Apple, and we'll be in contact another way. But that's really exciting. So that's gonna be the first month of every Tuesday, the first episode. So when's that gonna be?
First Tuesday of every month, as opposed to first month of every Tuesday.
Is that what I just
Yeah,
said?
you just said that. You can that bit out as well.
But our first episode will be on the 3rd of June. And I'm going to put it to a few of our listeners right here. I'm going to name 3 listeners that I want to jump on. Doesn't necessarily have to be the very first one we do, but I'm going to challenge them right now to join us. I don't want to put them on the spot. I haven't mentioned this to any of them.
But in the event they're not the 3, then the 3 who actually do come on are going to feel like unwelcome guests.
That's no. I don't necessarily mean that these 3 will be the first 3. I just mean at some point I would like them to come on.
Right.
All right. Okay. I'll list them off now. So friend of the show, from Black and White United, Andreas. I'm keen for Andreas to join us. I know he's going overseas in a couple of weeks, so it might not be till a little bit later. But he's always been really good to us, giving us shout outs on his show. So if you haven't heard of him, Black and White United on YouTube and Instagram. I did a one-on-one episode with Andreas in the pre-season. If you want to go back and listen to that, he's a good bloke and really good at what he does. And he would be fantastic on this. Luke from YouTube. Basically, Luke from, I don't know his last name, but he comments on our YouTube videos. He gave me kind of an idea like this. So he mentioned, he put it in my head, but he mentioned it to be sort of like a segment that we have people on. I wasn't that keen on doing it every week, but he did put this in my head that maybe we should get the community involved in some way. So Luke, the invitation is there for you. And Daniel O, aka Grubman from YouTube, a guy that I was talking to during the week, and I said I'll give him a shout out, but I'll do more than that. I'll bloody invite him onto the podcast. he's been listening to us since about episode 9 last year. And as we just said, we didn't have a lot of listeners at about episode 9 last year. So the Grub Man, as a very loyal listener from the beginning, get involved, mate. Get involved.
Right.
See, that's an exciting...
Yeah.
And just one more thing to add. One more thing to add. Come September, I want to do it every Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night during finals until we're eliminated. So hopefully it won't be until the Tuesday after the grand final. I would like to do it right throughout the final series. And then as of next year, back to the first Tuesday of every month.
Right.
Are you excited by that? Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we've spoken about it, so it's long enough, don't you?
It's not about us.
Oh.
It's about getting
yes,
the community involved. This is going to be big. This is going to...
If I say I'm excited, can we stop talking about it?
All right, let's get into all the hot topics.
We've listened to the wisdom of Sir Winston Churchill and the brilliance of genius Albert Einstein. In the 60s, we heard the great JFK. Now, all the great minds are talking footy.
All right, so no Maul, no Bobby Hill, no Shooter, no Geordie, no McStay, no Steele, no Pendles, no Bruzzy for 3 quarters, no worries. 45-point win, 9-2, top of the ladder. Away we go. That was a good win, despite the opposition.
It was a good win. It was, and when you say inspired the opposition, they were playing their best footy they have for a long time. They probably should have beaten Brisbane. They beat Richmond, which a win is a win. So they would have gone into that game as confident as they could have been playing a top 4 side in the last couple of years. Given that their history against us last year, as we all know, same venue, 54 points up. The previous year, I think it was, they were 28 points up at 3/4 time. Was that Marvel as well?
No, that was the G.
Yeah, I thought it was the G2. I was talking about George mate of mine who thought it was Marvel. So they actually match up well against us. So they would have been fairly confident. But the physios have done a miracle job on Nick Dacos because he was back to his best yesterday, the run and receive.
Yeah, well...
He had been, like I said last week, that he had still been getting these 25 to 30 possessions, but they hadn't been damaging. Now he was back to the handball, run, get another handball back, double plays. Best.
Yeah, it was exciting because we were talking to each other on the phone at halftime, and you mentioned if Nick Dacos isn't injured, then he needs the lift. And I agreed with you. I said he's not playing well. And how many times have we said that about Nick in the 4 years he's been around? Like rarely ever. And he had 10 disposals to halftime. He was the captain yesterday, and it wasn't looking good for him. But, man, did he turn it on in the second half when we needed him to most. He responded, ended up with 38 disposals, 28 disposals in the second half, 17 in the last quarter. And, yeah, the meters gained were back. That's something that's been lacking out of Nick's game the last 3 weeks. And, yeah, he was outstanding.
How many meters gained did he get in the end?
It's in my notes for the Julian medal.
Talk about it later.
736 meters gained, which was a team high.
Yeah.
And I don't reckon many of them would have come in the first half. So he was outstanding, and that's what great players do. Like when they're down and out, and he had a pretty poor first half. They don't have a bad second half, do they? They normally respond, and Nick is a great player, and a huge reason why we were able to win last night, because it was looking pretty grim at halftime, and I was just thinking, after the previous 2 seasons where they challenged us and we just snuck over the line, I was thinking at some point this team's going to get us. They're going to get us, and I was thinking that it was going to be last night with all those players out. It wasn't looking good, but a player that did perform for the 4 quarters was our boy Ned Long. How fucking good is Ned Long?
Yeah.
He a mid-season pick, and we'll get into the mid-season draft a little bit later on because that's coming up next week. But man, he could be the greatest mid-season draft pick of all time by the end of his career. He gives us something that we lacked in that midfield. Like even in our premiership year, like I know Tom Mitchell was an absolute star in our premiership year, getting it out, but he wasn't a big body. He wasn't He is like a baby Patrick Cripps, Ned Long, isn't he? Like
Yeah.
he gets better every week. And the more players we have out, obviously Pendlebury out, Sidebottom out, those types of midfielders, he just steps up. It's like what I was saying last week about Jeremy Howe. Whenever we have a key defender down, he comes into his own. And it's similar with Ned Long. Whenever we have a couple of midfielders out, he just explodes.
Yeah, what I like about he's got a very, very simple game plan, and he doesn't try to be anything other than that. His game plan is to use his bulk to get the ball and feed it out and apply tackles.
Oh, yeah.
And it's that style of game plan is least likely to fluctuate week to week. It's just very basic, very simple, and he doesn't try to be anything other than that.
I love the way how the opposition, they just can't tackle him. The way he stands up and tackles and gets the ball. How many times last night did you think, oh, he's going to be pinged here? And then he'll just somehow get it off. He'll shrug off the tackler and away he goes. Like, he's incredible. He's actually incredible. Come Brownlow night, they were having this conversation on Fox, I think, after the game. Who gets the 3 votes? Is it Dacos or is it Ned Long?
Well, I heard somebody saying last night, I think, it doesn't matter who it was, saying, well, Long was probably a 4-quarter game.
I think that was Bucks.
Well, yeah, was it? Yeah, probably Bucks. And that's not a bad point. It was a 4-quarter game, but yeah, you're splitting hairs. But Nick Dacos made the difference, didn't he? He kind of took it away from North in the end, whereas Long kept us in it basically. Because they were playing, they were better than us in the first half. Yet we weren't very far adrift on the scoreboard.
And Ned Long was a big reason.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm
Imagine
saying.
if he wasn't there.
So Nick took it away from them, but Long kept us in it in that first half.
Well, it's going to be interesting when Andrew Dillon, Brownlow and I, 2 votes, N, because they're both N.
Yes,
Dacos and Long.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, but
You would have been forgiven for thinking that Wardlord, what's his name? Warlaw. He was dominating because the commentators could not stop talking about him. And then I went to the stats at halftime. He had 5 possessions to halftime.
Did he really?
Yeah, he had 5 possessions to halftime. Yeah, they were just waxing lyrical about him. I thought, gee, he must be getting it along. I haven't really noticed him that much. But they're always talking about him. I thought he might have had 15 possessions halftime. He had 5.
I really like him.
So do I.
Yeah, he's a really promising young player.
Yeah.
I don't want to say he's overrated because that's unfair, but okay, maybe I am saying he's overrated. They go on about him a lot for a guy that actually hasn't done anything. And he's like, what? A third year player. I think he's third year player now. He's had a lot of injuries in a short amount of time as well. So it's not necessarily his fault, but they act like he's Joel Selwood. And what Joel Selwood did in his first 3 years is completely different to what Wardlaw's done. He's achieved so much more, Selwood.
Well, I think Wardlaw has been in 2 wins. Hasn't he played in 2 wins?
Jeez, I have no idea.
Yeah, because he has been out a little bit too over the last couple of years. I think he's only played in maybe it's only 1 win still. I don't know.
It would have to be more than that.
Oh, I don't know if it has been. Anyway, it doesn't
have
matter.
to be. We'll continue to talk about our midfield for a little bit longer.
Oh, good, because I want to talk about the midfield. Yeah, go on.
So before the game, I called you and I said, without Pendlebury there and without Sidebottom, and considering the opposition that we've got, this is a big game for our boy Ed Allen, the guy that we've been talking up every single week of this podcast. I said the 2 previous games, he had 11 disposals and 13 disposals, and he just wasn't quite doing enough. And I said, if he comes out and does that again, if he has a 12 disposal game, then with these guys coming back, he should 100% be one of the guys omitted. And I said, there's nothing that we could say to justify his spot in the team. So I said, it's a huge game for him. Like, the guys that he was playing, they're probably in a similar age bracket to what he is as well. So it's not like he's coming up against a bunch of men. Like, this was his time to shine. And at halftime, I think he had 8 disposals. And I was like, oh, geez, like, maybe he's going to be another Finn McRae. Which, we talk about him all the time, has all this hype behind him, but just doesn't become the player that we want. And I was worried, but then that second half, he was very, very good. He ended with the 24 disposals. You and I said that 20 would be a pass mark for him. We were saying that before the game. And ended up with the 24. A huge second half, a big reason why we were able to get on top alongside guys like Long and Dacos. Obviously, he played a bit more on the outside, on the wing. And I think he holds his spot. And I think I think he holds his spot over someone, and
Oh, he definitely holds his spot.
well, he holds his spot, but there's a lot of guys coming back, and we'll talk about that later. But I think if it comes down to someone like him and Lipinski that are both playing a bit of an outside role at the moment, I don't think Lipinski's been very good the last month. And
No.
he was sub a couple of weeks ago, which means I think maybe the coaching staff is feeling the same way. He might have his nose ahead of Lipinski. I don't know. They're both in the team for the time being until we get everyone back. But what do you reckon?
Right now, I think he's ahead of Lipinski, and I've always been a Lipinski fan. Lipinski is the type of guy who plays well when the team's playing well. He's very much an outside player, as we all know. So he relies on his teammates feeding it to him. And if the team's humming really well, he's a valuable addition because he's a nice kick inside 50. But in those games where he's struggling a little bit, he doesn't bring a lot to the table. Yeah. Alan was really good. He got involved in a lot of the handball chains. The only thing I'd say about him is a couple of times there's not enough pace on his kicks. I remember a couple of times he had targets inside forward 50, and instead of doing the quick long dart kick, quick through the air, so the opposition can't get back, I found
Loopy, kind of, yeah.
What's that?
A bit loopy, like
But so instead of doing the old Ben Reed dart kick that Ben Reed used to do,
yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, he's doing the loopy kick, and the opposition got back and were able to score a couple of times. So no, he's ahead of Lipinski at the moment, and he's ahead of a few of them with my.
Go on. Name names.
Just the usual suspects, Will Hoskin Elliott.
They go.
Well, obviously Oleg came in late, which just diversion for a second. You sent me a tweet by Mitch Cleary saying, and I agree with him. Why did we bring Oleg into the side? Isn't that what the emergencies are for? Like, why couldn't we? They obviously had a plan, Collingwood, and good on them. They got what they wanted to. But from an AFL perspective, why isn't the AFL saying, well, no, you got your emergencies there for a reason? You have to exhaust your emergencies first, surely.
No, I agree with Mitch as well. I think it's an absolute joke. The AFL is an absolute shit show. Like, you either have rules or you don't. So Parker came in for Pendlebury, who was a laid out, and then Bobby Hill, who was also a laid out. It should have been one of Dimatina or Charlie West, probably Dimatina because Charlie West would have been going into it. The only way I would, if I was the AFL, that I would agree to someone coming in through the emergencies would be if we had 4 laid outs, which would just
exactly. That's what I'm saying. You have to exhaust your emergencies first, don't you?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me. But the AFL always make ridiculous calls. But anyway, like you said, we got what we wanted. Oleg came on. Not the biggest knife for him, but he kicked a ripping goal, didn't he? Wasn't that a good goal and a good celebration?
It was a good goal. But I'm still surprised he played, given the circumstances of his call-up. Because he said he was in Bunnings when he got the call from McRae, and he had his day all planned out. He's going to be doing some flooring at home. And given his devotion to the club, which has been on display the last couple of years, I'm surprised he didn't say, well, I'd love to, Craig, but I've got a few other plans. But no, it's
You're such an arsehole. He's such a great teammate. Everyone inside the club loves him. They love him.
Is he like obviously I'm not inside the club. I don't know the guy, but just from externally, what I see is a guy who prefers to go to weddings of his brother-in-law or bar mitzvahs of the guy's son down the street and stuff like that. Anyway,
Premiership hero, Oleg. But I think when it all comes down to it, he'll be a fair way off the best 23. Did you mention? You said you wanted to talk a bit about the midfield.
Oh yes, the midfield. The midfield. We're beaten in clearances last night. Not terribly beaten, but there's a bit of a pattern occurring over the last month or so, and maybe because Nick Dacos hasn't been in his best, and we've got a couple of injuries here or there. But we've been winning despite of the midfield. The midfield have gotten beaten pretty badly in a couple of the games, and we're still winning. Is that a concern for us?
Nah, I don't think so. Like you said, Nick's been not at his best, and maybe carrying an injury. We've been resting a lot of guys, Pendlebury and Sidebottom and those kinds of guys over. I said, nah, I'm not concerned at all.
You mentioned side bottom. You were saying yesterday, and I agree. Well, if these late changes, couldn't we have brought side bottom back in?
Yeah, so if we're going to ask the AFL to bring in someone from outside our emergencies, I would have rather it been Sidebottom over a Markov. But in saying that, like obviously we've found Pendlebury, like he would have just been the perfect replacement for Pendlebury. But in saying that, I thought about it a little bit more afterwards, and if he was already prepared for the weekend to have a rest, maybe he hasn't his preparation hasn't been up to standard when it comes to playing an AFL game. Whereas someone like an Oleg would have been preparing to play VFL anyway. So whether it's a lead up to a week, they do have a certain routine. Sidebottom might have just been completely resting. You know what I mean?
That did occur to me too, but then I dismissed it as nonsense because you're talking about professional footballers who it's not like he hasn't played for 6 weeks. Didn't he play the previous week?
Yeah.
It's just.
But do they have a routine
Well,
Monday through to game day?
They probably do have a routine, but
Yeah.
are they not
And if he's
are they not professional enough to be able to adapt outside that routine? It's like, oh no, I can't play this weekend. I didn't get my coffee at my usual place on a Wednesday afternoon. They have to be able to adapt on the run sometimes. They're
Yeah,
professionals.
possibly. I look personally, I would have liked to have seen it, but doesn't matter. We won anyway, won comfortably in the end, and Sidebottom got his rest. So yeah, all good. We've talked about him the last month, I reckon. Let's talk about him again. Big bad Billy Frampton, Premiership full forward, and he's not too far off becoming a Premiership full back as well. What an absolute star he's become. He is the rock solid, big bodied key defender that we've been crying out for years. And ironically, he's been on our list for the last 3 as well, but he hasn't been playing like he is right now. He is a brick wall. Nick Larkey has given us so many issues over the years. He's absolutely destroyed Darcy Moore on many occasions. Big Bad Billy comes out, one goal. One goal to
Look,
Larkey.
everything you're saying is correct, but it's kind of 30% exaggerated.
Is it though?
In your term,
But is it when I'm not okay.
he's been solid. He's been good, and yes, he does provide us with that anchor point back there. Yeah.
So we talk about Ned Long making Nick Dacos better and Starbottom and Pendlebury, and when he comes back, Jordan DeGoey. But Billy Frampton's the exact same for our defenders. He's making Jeremy Howe better. He's going to make Darcy Moore better when he comes back. Maynard, Quainer, these guys. He's taking so much responsibility off these guys and letting them play their natural intercepting game. And he can do that himself. We saw against Fremantle. I think he led us for intercept possessions. He's got more strings to his bow than what we gave him credit for.
Yeah, well, no, but as I predicted at the time that McGuinness went down. McGuinness, wasn't it?
Yes, Reece McGuinness.
McGuinness went down. There might have been a silver lining to it. I was skeptical that he could hold down a key back post just because he's a bit light on weight-wise. I thought he might struggle, and it is terrible what happened to him. But I said at the time, it gets Frampton back in the side, who I thought should have been in there before.
I mean, we just don't know. Who knows what would have happened with Reece McGuinness? He could have come out and absolutely starred.
Well, we don't know, but that's what I suspected.
Yeah. Look, I'm happy that Frampton's in. Doesn't mean I'm happy that Reef has done his ACL. I think Reef, when he gets his body right, I think he signed a 2-year extension after that. So we've got a couple of years of Reef. Once he gets his body right, he could be the natural replacement for a Jeremy Howe, possibly. But yeah, he's not the same type of defender that Billy Frampton is he? Like he wouldn't have been taking the big boys like Frampton. That still would have been Darcy Moore being the number 1 key, and then probably Reef being the second. So yeah, it's not good that he did his ACL, but I get where you're coming from. It has allowed us to get Billy into the team.
And we talked about Finn McRae last week, and you're right. He's not contracted at the end of 2026. No, it's 2025.
He's done, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's done.
It's so unfortunate, especially the way it's ended with this shoulder injury. Like, it would have been nice to see him at least have the opportunity to fight for his career.
Yeah, I'd like to see. Well, assuming he does leave the club, and I think he will, I'd like to see him get another chance at it.
Maybe in the future. Maybe he's the type of player that needs to go back to state league for a couple of years and eventually come back into the AFL system. Could be good for him. But yeah, I mean, there's a few players, and I won't name names now. We could do it for another podcast that you look at on the list, and you're like, you can pretty much predict our bottom 5 who aren't going to be there next year. I don't want to. I don't want to name that. Ash Johnson's another one. But,
You don't want to name Ash Johnson, but you couldn't resist.
I won't name the rest. But we're in a strong position. We got really good depth, and it's not to say
Parker. Not. I'm saying how good Parker was last night. He's another one that just good, very good depth.
Oh,
like it's I wouldn't want to lose somebody like him because of a lack of opportunities at the club. Hopefully they can, because
I think he's
ready-made player, isn't he?
Yeah, I like Parker too. The thing I like most about Parker, and I think we mentioned this during the preseason, is he played, a handful of games last year. I'm going to say 5. That sounds about right. And his last couple of games, especially that last one, the dead rubber against Melbourne, looked really, really good. And he did that off the no preseason. He was obviously still playing cricket and joined us in February. So the thing I like about him is, he's now had a full preseason. And he might not get the opportunity because of how strong we are, but I think he would be a better footballer now than what he was in the back end of last year. And he was meant to be apparently a top 20, top 30 pick in his draft year as well before he chose cricket. So he's always been a talented player, and we got him for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I remember hearing Darren Buick, who coached him at the lower level, just waxing lyrical about him, booming kick and so forth. You know who else is back? Well, you told me he was back. Okay. Matty Nichols. Matty Nichols was back.
I don't have that in my notes. How did I forget that?
Yeah, for the first time since the Fremantle game last year, where Sullivan rudely didn't return the ball to him.
Get this. Thanks for working me up. So
I'll just sit back.
I'm not gonna bother Randy. But that Fremantle game where Matt Nichols made the worst decision in AFL history, absolutely disgraced himself, disgraced the AFL world and umpires everywhere. That game was played on the 24th of May, 2024. Guess what? Yesterday, his return game against North Melbourne, a return game in terms of umpiring Collingwood, because he hadn't umpired since that game, was the 24th of May, 2025. Exactly
Conspiracy
to the day. Now, this guy umpired us regularly. He was always umpiring us, being one of the senior guys, and us being a big club. He was regularly umpiring Collingwood. So what are the chances that after he makes this call against Fremantle, we don't see him again for a year to the day? I believe that behind closed doors, he got a ban from umpiring Collingwood for 12 months as a punishment, because he did. He made it all about him. If people remember the incident, it was a couple of minutes before the Sullivan thing where Sullivan handed the ball to Dacos instead of him. He cracked the shits with Steele Sidebottom for, was it a similar thing?
Similar thing, yeah. It was still, there was a stoppage, breaking play preceding the stoppage, and you had Sidebottom kind of on the ground with a Fremantle player, and the ball was between them. And it was a young Fremantle player, so the umpire probably didn't know his name, so he just said to Sidebottom to give the ball back to him. And Sidebottom just ignored him.
Yeah, he left it on the ground.
Yeah, he left on the ground. And you could see Nichols just was pissed off. You could see it on the replay. He was just steam coming out of his ears. So he's grabbed the ball himself and bounced at the stoppage. And then a couple minutes later, Sullivan didn't give the ball back to him. Yeah. And you just knew, it was just done out of spite.
It was his ego. His ego. And he's always been like that, because I told you, the first time I ever noticed that prick was on King.
So didn't you say a minute ago you weren't going to rant? Now you're calling people pricks.
was on King's birthday. It was about 2018. And, he stands out, a bald-headed bastard. And he was in the centre, bounced the ball, horrible bounce.
I don't have hair, Dermot, so just go easy.
Horrible bounce from Matty Nichols. Max Gawn, out of frustration, punched the ball away, and Nichols talked to Max like he was a school kid. And that was the first time I thought, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? What gives you the right to talk to someone like Max Gawn like that just because you're incapable of bouncing a ball? He's frustrated because you've done that multiple times. And ever since that moment, I kept an eye on Matt Nichols. So I was not surprised the way he made it all about himself against Fremantle that night. And then gets that 12-month ban from umpiring Collingwood. And he was back last night, and my blood boiled every time I saw his face. Have you seen his disgusting little moles growing out? Looks like a fucking idiot.
I did, and you said before the game that the Collingwood supporters will give it to him. He's gone in disguise. He's gone in disguise.
Fair, there was no disgraceful decision made by him. Actually, no, there was that one where Billy Frampton got punched in the head at one point, and Nichols was the closest umpire to that. And play on.
Are you sure this doesn't meet the threshold of a rant?
I didn't even have this in my notes. You're the one that fucking started me on this, guy. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about Will Hayes. Came in for a debut.
Yeah, got better as the game went on.
Yeah, really like him. A bit of a backstory on Will Hayes. Everyone's seen the videos of when he was drafted and then when he found out he was debuting on a weekend. During the preseason, I reached out to every single Collingwood player currently on our list to try and get him on for an interview. And the only one that replied was Will Hayes. And he was very, very polite. Seems like he's a really good kid. I like him. He's a friend of Into the Woods podcast now because he replied, not coming on the podcast, but mind you, he did say this was like a week after he got drafted. He said, I'm still settling in, blah, blah, blah. He was very polite. I should probably reach out to him again, actually, and see, because he didn't rule out coming on in the future.
Yeah, I wouldn't be keen on interviewing current players. I don't. Even when you see current players being interviewed on TV or the major podcasts, I don't normally listen to it because current players are boring. They're very scripted in what they can and can't say. So I find it almost pointless listening to an interview with a current player. You get a few exceptions here and there, like back in the day when they interviewed an Ackerman or something like that. You'd listen, you'd tune in because he could say something interesting. But 99% of them, they just they toe the company line. They do as they're told, and it's boring.
That's true. But what I'm saying is he comes across as a very nice, polite man. And before we get into him, just why it's fresh in my mind, some of our listeners may have called on that I was in contact with the great man, Nathan Bucks, over the preseason. He agreed to come onto the podcast, right? This is true. He agreed to come onto the podcast. I spoke to him a couple of times. We're talking to good blokes. He comes across as a really nice guy, Bucks. But then we were due to have him on in the next couple of weeks. He messaged me during the week after the news of him meeting up with Tassie is broken. He messaged me and said, "Hey mate, sorry, I'm pulling away from all media commitments outside of his normal Fox SEN. So any extra media commitments because of basically the news that had been broken, front page of all the newspapers. So he said, sorry. Once again, like Hayes, didn't rule out maybe coming on once everything's died down. But man, that sucked. Because imagine if we got bloody Bucks. Said, look, it was bloody Tasmania. Like, we're from Tassie. And now it's exciting for us to potentially have Bucks coming down and living down in our state. But fuck it, they had to break it just before he was meant to come on our podcast.
But when things died down, but they might not name a coach for another 8 months. Who knows?
Well, that's the thing. If he comes out and is named the coach, it's never going to die down, is it? So we will never get him on. So that's a big blow. That was a huge get for us. And bloody Tasmania's ruined everything.
I've heard in the grapevine that that's not the reason he won't come on. He got wind that there's going to be a few tough questions regarding one Lockie Keefe.
Oh, God.
And it scared him off.
Yes. Rightio. But back to Will Hayes. I think it was a solid game. He got run down at one point, which is a little bit frustrating, but you can't hold that against the first gamer. But a few really nice tackles that resulted in holding the ball going his way. And I would like to see us continue to pick it for at least one more week. I think it's so harsh to debut someone and then drop them after a week.
Yeah, no, I'm not a believer in that too. And we did a bit of that, didn't we? Was it in 22 or 23 where we'd pick young guys and just discard them after a week? And yeah, I reckon if you give a young guy a go, you give him 2 or 3 games. Obviously, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I think we were discarding people very quickly back in those days.
Well, even last year, like TJ, he played against North in last year's game, and we haven't seen him since. He was dropped the next week. Haven't seen him since.
Yeah.
So I would like to give them at least 2 games. I know that we're going to have a lot of guys coming back, but if we can surely find room, just like if at the end of the day it came down to Will Hayes or Will Hoskin-Elliott, I would rather just go with the kid. Get some games into him, especially with all these senior guys coming back. We don't necessarily need Will Hoskin-Elliott.
I don't think we necessarily need Will Hoskin-Elliott.
All right. Okay. I didn't want to start with this because I believe that there could be a bit of a punch on between you and I with this subject. Mason Cox v Charlie
We
West.
have to talk it every week. We talk about it every
So
week.
I said to you on the phone last night, I will give you 1 minute without interrupting to tell me why Mason Cox should hold his spot in the team over Charlie West, who's in red hot form. Go on, 1 minute starts now.
Why am I limited to 1 minute? Did you see the Footscray Geelong game the other day, where Footscray lost it because English was on the bench for a few minutes, and that's when Geelong got their run on because they didn't have a decent enough second ruckman. Look, I don't know what the answer is because Mason Cox has been frustrating the hell out of me for the last month, but I just don't know how you structure up without him. I don't think he can bring what is he, 19-year-old kid in and ask him to ruck. I've only seen highlights of the guy play. He's not he's a 19-year-old kid. So he hasn't got the big body. He'll probably grow into a big body, but at the moment he's not. So I'm not as strong on it as I was a few weeks ago because Cherry just slaughtered Cox in the ruck, just pushed him aside, and even Jack Darlin, a one boundary throw-in, was able to discard him fairly easily. But we've written Mason Cox off before. I remember a couple of years ago at the Gabba, we both said this guy never plays again. Later on that year, he was our number one ruckman in the premiership. Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm coming around to dropping him.
Oh, well, you and me, hold on. This was meant to be a minute where you talked about why he should stay in the team. Now you want him to drop. No, well, it's good.
You ask the questions, I'll give the answer.
All right. Well, the thing is, I love Big Coxie. I do. He's great, but I've used this line a couple of times. You know who else I like, Michael?
Oh, you've been waiting to use this. Well, you wanted to use it last week, but you forgot.
I like Darren Jolly too. Doesn't mean I think Big Daz should come back into the team.
You should have used.
Cox is past it, mate. He's washed. He's done.
You should have used Sid Coventry. That would have been better.
Yeah, but I didn't watch Sid Coventry play. How would I know if I like him?
I know that's what makes it good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I really like what Cox has done for us. And man, wasn't he great in that final series of 2023? But it's not 2023. It's 2025. He's now 34 years old, and he's done. He's absolutely past it. And you talked about Jack Darlin. So why the Cherry Darlin combo? Cherry rucks for about 90% of the game. Darlin does 10%. Why the hell can't we do that with Cameron? Why can't Cameron do 90% and then Charlie West do 10%?
Because Charlie West is 19, whereas Darlin is 31.
Who cares? But
Darlin's a big bloke. He's a big experienced.
But Darlin still gets smashed in the majority of the ruck contest still. Like it's only 10% of the game because what happens on the other side, on the flip side, you then got Charlie West forward, who is going to be a much better option than Mason Cox. He's going to be a much better target. We're getting more out of our team by having Charlie West there. And Dan McStay should be back probably after the bye. And it's just, I feel like we're going to miss an opportunity to see this kid who's absolutely dominating every single week in the VFL because of Mason Cox. It's just not fair.
But Footscray, or the Western Bulldogs, whatever you want to call them, they lost it in that 10% of game time where English was off the ground.
I think that's kind of irrelevant to our situation right now because...
See, I thought it was relevant. It was directly relevant.
Are we the Western Bulldogs?
No, but we'd have a similar situation.
I don't think you can put it down to that 10% of the game time that...
Well, I watched the game and I reckon that they really suffered when English was off the ground.
But Cox isn't giving us anything in the ruck anyway. He was getting destroyed. So what's the difference? Charlie West will get destroyed. Okay, so what? So did Mason Cox.
No, but he's not normally that bad.
I think he is this year.
Yeah.
I think, once again, I love Coxie, but when it's over, it's over. And it's absolutely over. 3 disposals last night. And he's not doing enough.
Yeah,
he's not doing enough. And even if Charlie West came in and got 3 disposals, at least we're giving a kid a game.
I'm not disagreeing with you in that probably Cox needs to be not showing the door, is it? But he needs to be pushed back to the twos. But how we structure up, I don't know. I'm not convinced. And we say this, but I'm just not convinced.
Once McStay is back, how the hell is Charlie West going to get a game with Membry, Mychek, and McStay there? He'll probably get a go maybe when one of them needs a rest. But other than that, we are missing out on the perfect opportunity to get games into this kid. He deserves that. He's the best player in the VFL every single week. We need to reward these guys.
You're very passionate. I would almost sooner go a Ned Long doing a Patrick Cripps style around the ground.
I brought that up a few weeks ago and you dismissed it.
Did I?
Yes, you basically said it was a horrible idea.
Well, it's different when I say it. I articulate it so much better to you. I sold a
You
vision.
even used Patrick Cripps as an example.
I sold a vision a lot better than you.
I said that I didn't actually want him to do it, but I threw the idea out there to talk about, and we both said no.
When it came to me last night, I thought this is revolutionary.
It came to
Wait
you.
until they hear this. Knock their socks off.
Oh, is there anything else you want to talk about from that game? Any individual performances or anything that happened in the
Let
game?
me have a look at my notes. If I was a North Melbourne supporter, I'd be annoyed because watching Fox post game, they were showing vision from the club from the dressing rooms, and they started off with Collingwood. You saw all the family and friends there, and there was a lot of embracing and so forth, a lot of chatting going on. Looks like there was maybe 100 people in the rooms, and then they crossed to the North Melbourne rooms, and I saw a similar number of people there and similar interactions, a lot of laughing, joking, backslapping, hugs and kisses. And at first I thought it was a Collingwood room, and then I focused, thought, I know it's the North rooms. I would hate it if I was a North Melbourne supporter, having seen those scenes. I'm thinking, and yeah, going back, do you reckon Barassi, after another loss, would allow family and friends and backslapping in the room? I know we're going back to the old ages, but even Dennis Pagan, 25 years ago, do you reckon Dennis Pagan would let that lot in the? No, I wouldn't be letting them in the rooms after that. I'd be giving them a dressing down if I was the coach. Yeah, there you go. Another thing, not about this game, but the Footscray game again. The Footscray Geelong game. The furor over the Kane Corns and Luke Beveridge mouthing off.
That was funny.
Yeah, they had John Ralph covering the story at halftime at Fox. And John Ralph was going on about how Kane Corns had invaded Beveridge's safe space. Mate, safe space, give me a break. How precious are we as a society that we require safe spaces? Well, these are spaces where you can't be challenged, can't learn, don't teach me anything, I'm in my safe space. This is just two blokes mouthing off, Ralph. Okay?
And Bevo was the one that was staring at him first.
Exactly, he was staring at him first. It's just two guys mouthing off. It's not a big deal. Didn't even need to be reported on. Nobody got hurt in the safe space. That should have been, that can be my I got vomit.
Oh, so no God, I got vomit today. That's it.
No, that's it. You can just...
Right, let's go to the selection table. Now, the thing, the selection table, it's a bit annoying because we normally do it the day after our game, and a lot changes during the week, doesn't it? And especially with Collingwood, with the amount of guys that we end up resting and stuff like that, everything that we say now normally is out the window, 24, 48 hours after we've spoken about it.
If not sooner, if not immediately.
Oh, the amount of times that we've recorded this podcast and then I've gone online as I'm editing and something is broken. I'm just like, fuck's sake. But we'll push through because I think based off what I'm hearing, it sounds like Darcy Moore, Steele Sidebottom, Bobby Hill, Lockie Schultz, and Pendlebury will all be back next week. Definitely Pendlebury and Sidebottom. Fingers crossed Schultz, because if he's out another week with concussion, then that might become a little bit concerning. Darcy Moore sounds all good. And Bobby, we don't know about the personal issues, but from what I heard, one of the players made it sound like he was going to be back. Can't remember who it was. So there's 5 guys that walk into our team next week. And on top of that, I'm going to call it right now, automatic change. Charlie West comes in for Mason Cox. So there's 6 changes, all right?
6 changes from a side that won by 45 points.
Yeah, pretty much.
That would be unprecedented.
Yeah. So if we assume that Charlie West is replacing Big Meso, who are the 5 that go out for Moore, Sidebottom, Bobby, Schultz, and Pendles? Now, the first guy will be Maynard because he's out with a foot injury, and we still, to this stage, we don't know how bad that is. It'll probably be broken. The news will probably be broken about half an hour after we finish the podcast, but...
Is it possible to drop Will Hoskin-Elliott 4 times for the one game?
But it's a bit concerning over Big Bruzzy, so hopefully it's not too bad. So who are the other 4 players that make way? For me, I've got Oleg, Will Parker. As much as I don't want to drop him, for me, there's no other real option. Sullivan, I really like Sullivan as a role player and a depth player, but This is probably the time where he then loses his spot.
Yeah, he's playing the Schultz role.
Yeah, and he's doing it. He's doing it quite well.
He's doing it.
And Will Hoskin-Elliott, the other one, but he still pops up for a goal or two every single game, Hoskin-Elliott. So he isn't been as bad as what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying he's been bad, but I think we could always do better than him.
Possibly. But yeah, they're the four that I've got pushing out. But the other three that could be on their edge of selection, this is where the debate will come. Ed Allen, but I'm going to just put a line through. He's 100% playing after that performance. Yeah. So the other two, Will Hayes. And for me, could this just be a Will Hayes v. Will Parker sort of situation? I would probably like I said, I don't like dropping a guy after his first game. So that's what's making me lean towards keeping Will Hayes in the team. And the other guy's Lipinski, and we spoke a little bit about him. Hey, maybe both Hayes and Parker stay in, and Lipinski's the guy. That would be sending a message, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I know McRae loves Lipinski. I've heard him talk about him quite a number of times over the years, describing him as our best runner or close to our best runner. And like I just touched on before, he is really good when the side's humming. But he must be getting close. You know who else I had? I wrote this down at half time and then I crossed it out. But I'll say it anyway.
Oh, no.
What does Membry bring us?
Are you serious?
That's what I wrote. What does Membry bring us? Exclamation mark. So I was very passionate at the time.
He wasn't even that bad in the first half either. He was
I think he's been just going for a while now. And I'm thinking... And he kicked a couple of crucial goals in the second half, which is why I crossed that out. And I wasn't going to mention it, but I thought, no, it's an interesting discussion because he's only just been going for a while. I know he takes pressure off.
I was about to say, he does to our forward line what Franklin is to our back line and Long is to our midfield.
Yeah, but I'm thinking maybe you bring him in for a West. But I crossed it out. Don't get angry.
And then keep Mason Cox over Membry, please.
You can see it's crossed out.
Like even in that first half, he was doing come on, and there's a lot of times where he doesn't actually get something on stats. The amount of tap-ons, he's a very smart player. I noticed it a lot when I was over on my long service and I went to 6 games in a row and being able to watch what he does off the ball and these little tap-ons as well. He's a very, very smart player.
I'm a very simple creature. I like the flashy stuff.
They
have to be flashy for me.
Can I just say, I've watched the last 2 games on TV after going to 6 live in a row, and I miss going to the games. Going to the game, nothing beats it. Watching it on TV is bloody ordinary, I reckon, compared to going to the game. You don't see anything off the ball. You can't get it's just... I wish I lived in Melbourne. I really do. I miss going...
You did live in Melbourne. I moved you from there.
Yeah, when I was 12. Thanks, Michael. But I love... If I could, I would go every single week. The last 2 weeks, it's been a hard watch having to watch it on TV.
This is riveting. Collingwood supporter likes going to watch Collingwood.
But
keep on going.
Make a call then. So let's just say Moore, Sidebottom, Bobby, Pendle, Schultz all come in. For who? Who were the 5 to go out? Let's just... Right. I'll name them and you say yes or no. So...
why do I only ever have to react to what you say? Can't I say...
Well, Maynard's obviously out. So pick one... pick 2 that stay in out of Markov, Sullivan, Hoskin-Elliott, Parker, Hayes and Lipinski. Who are the 2 out of those 6 that hold their spot? The rest go out.
So can I just work backwards? So Maynard's out.
Yeah.
Will Hoskin-Elliott's out. Oleg's out.
Yeah.
How many do we have to... 4? Do we want 4 out?
4 out. 5 out, including Maynard. So 4 that don't include Maynard.
Okay. Assuming all these people do come back. Sullivan, if Schultz comes back.
Yep.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 more. So who are the other options?
Parker, Hayes, Lipinski.
Parker, Hayes, and Lipinski. Who have we got next week?
The Hawks.
The Hawks.
Big game.
I'm going Lipinski.
Lipinski out.
Yeah, look, I'm not strong on it, but it's a bit of a toss-up. But yeah, I going back to my comments before, I don't like young guys only playing 1 game and being chucked out. And Hayes, Parker was actually pretty good.
He was good, yeah.
He was good, so I think he rewarded the good. And Lipinski, at one stage, I know it's not his bag. It's not what he's known for. But I just texted you and I said, isn't Lipinski strong overhead? There was just one instance where he was in a contested marking situation against one opponent and similar size and weight, and he was just never a chance of even impacting on the contest. He was,
Anthony from Pies Footy posted a really good short video on YouTube during the week. I think it was this week, maybe it was the previous week. It's in recent weeks. He posted a really good video of Lipinski basically just pulling out of the contest constantly. And his belief is that eventually he will lose his spot in the team because of that.
Well, George, my mate, he's regularly highlights that to me over the years. And you'll see something Lipinski does, and you just know a text is on his way.
But I said to you very early in the year, he had a really good patch, Lipinski. I think for a month there, he was playing really good footy, and Bo McCreary wasn't. And I said to you after that, I said, why do we continue to support Bo McCreary when he does nothing? And then I continue to bag Lipinski whenever he has a quiet game. Well, since I've said that, McCreary's form has gone up and Lipinski's gone down. And I was thinking, should we give him a couple more weeks after my comment then? Are we being too hard? Or is this sort of the beginning of... No, I was about to say the beginning of the end. It's not the beginning of the end. That's very extreme. But is this the... Are we going a little bit early on him losing his spot in the team?
Look, if we're winning premierships this year, we'll go very deep. I think we need Lipinski in the side playing well.
But if he's not playing well, do we need
you need those type of players. You need those outside players who deliver. You need a bit of... He brings us class.
Yeah, but Ed Allen would probably be taking his role doing that similar thing. And if he's...
I don't know if Ed Allen's as good at delivering into the forward lines as Lipinski. Lipinski, when he's on, is amongst our best one or two deliverers inside forward 50.
It's a big call.
Oh, yeah, but I think it's accurate. Who's better than him? Well, Nick
Dacos, Pendlebury, Sidebottom, DeGoey, Houston...
look, I think Lipinski's as good as all those guys when he's on delivering the ball into
Josh Dacos.
Yeah. Well, I just think he's as good as those guys.
Jeez, that's a big call.
Yeah, but I stand by it.
We got a lot of.
So I'm not against dropping him now, but I'd like to see him. I think we need a guy like him in the side. You know, they can't all be Gavin Browns. Gung ho at the contest. They're just not all built like that.
Yeah, but you're saying we need him in the side. But a second ago, you just said he's the one you're dropping.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't mind dropping him at this stage of the season. Give him a game or two in the twos just to keep him sharp. But I think if we were to contest at the end of the year, we want that class in the side playing well. Yeah.
Yep, fair enough. Let's talk a little bit about the mid-season draft coming up. That's on Wednesday. Did you know that?
I knew it was coming up, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're talking about a few players and sort of guys that we might need. Now, one guy that we spoke about 6 weeks ago is Nathan Kruger, former Magpie, was linked to possibly come back through the mid-season draft. We're rumoured to be into him again. Melbourne and St Kilda are also rumoured to be into him. Since that report, he's now, for people that don't know, playing at Geelong's VFL as a key defender and been one of the best key defenders in all the state league competitions around the country. Since that article, I have not seen him linked at all with any club. His name just isn't coming up. It's, I think, becoming less and less likely that we'll have a reunion with Krugs.
He's not out injured again. He could very well be.
Could be. I don't think he is, but he could be. I love him. You love him. We've always been big fans of Nathan Kruger on the Into the Woods podcast. We were outraged when he was delisted and not given a chance as a key defender because that's obviously, he was played a lot as a key defender in his first stint with Geelong. And I personally, if it was up to me, he would be my number one target because I look and we've got great depth in the midfield. We've got great depth in the forward line. And as good as Big Bill is going now, we've sung his praises a lot in the last few weeks. If he was to go down, or Darcy Moore, who have we got? Like, it's Charlie Dean, really, and that's it. I think that we as a premiership contender, we need to draft for worst case scenario. If something was to go wrong, where have we got the least amount of depth on our list? And I still think it's key defence, and that's why I've been getting a guy like Kruger that knows the system well. He's been there for 4 years previous. He can just slot straight in and doesn't need to learn what we're about at Collingwood. So he would still be my number one target. Another thing that I'd like to point out about the mid-season draft is I've looked back and the amount of I don't like getting project players in the mid-season draft. I do not like getting kids, 18, 19-year-olds, because I've looked back on past mid-season drafts and all these guys that are 19 years old that get picked up, for example, that just missed out on the draft, they never really come on. Now, look at these names, the best mid-season draft picks over the last, well, ever since it's been around. Ned Long, John Noble, Jai Newcomb, Sam Durham, Massimo, D'Ambrosio, and Marlon Pickett. What do all these guys have in common? They're all mature picks. They've all just been able to slot in. They've all been early to mid-20s. Whereas these other guys, like North Melbourne, in the year where Jai Newcomb went pick 2 to the Hawks, they got a young ruck by the name of Jacob Kennedy or something like that. 19-year-old. Everyone said, oh, if they don't pick out now, he's going to go top 25 in the next draft. Never played a game. We've done it with Aiden Begg and we've done it with Oscar Steen and Ilaru Smith. Like, I just don't know how good these project players are. Whereas, like, I love the guys, the mature guys that can come straight in, that have worked hard to get a second chance for the last 2, 3, 4 years. They can make a difference. And we are linked with a guy called Rod Alley, who's a 186 centimeter defender. He's played 2 games for us in the VFL. He's a former basketballer, and he is the definition of project player. Now, I don't want to bag this kid. He could end up getting picked up by us, and I wish him all the best, and he could end up being a
We've got
great
a lot
player.
of those types, though, haven't we?
Yeah, but it's not even that. It's more the fact that project player. They don't work out very often in the mid-season draft, and we're a premiership contender. Let's get guys that can make a difference now. And 2 other guys that we're linked with that can make a difference now. Riley Mason, 195 centimeter key forward, who's kicked 17 goals, 5 for us in the VFL.
Yeah, I was reading about him.
That could be, he's 23 years old. He could make a difference. The only thing is, we've got Membry and McStay and Mychek and Charlie West, and to a lesser degree, Mason Cox. We've got a lot of depth in that area now. So at the end of the day, if it was between him and a Nathan Kruger, I like Kruger because of the defensive option. If we were then struck down with injuries in that forward line, we all know Krug is capable going forward anyway. So that's why I would personally choose Kruger over Mason. And the other guy, 22 years of age, Josh Brown, midfielder for our VFL, averaging 23.4 disposals and has kicked 6 goals. I spoke about him in a preseason episode. He played for us in a practice match against Gold Coast and Brisbane earlier in the year as a top-up player. And he was getting CBAs, and he was honestly the guy that caught my eye more than anyone. He, funnily enough, actually signed for our VFL team that day. He signed that day, played for a practice match for us that night, and was really, really good. And I pointed him out. I said, oh, I don't know who this guy is. He's number 48 or whatever he's wearing that night. But man, he was good, and he's now playing for our VFL team. I said, if he keeps this up, keep an eye on him for a potential mid-season draft pick. And now he has been linked with us. And personally, I liked what I saw. That's the only time I've seen him play, but apparently his form has continued throughout the year in the VFL. He probably would have been getting a game for us on the weekend if he was on our list over guys like an O-Leg, for example, because he's been really good. And so personally, if it was up to me, we've got 2 picks. I would be going Nathan Kruger and Josh Brown. I don't want to see us go any development players. If we end up with a Riley Mason, then that would be good. Or any other mature guy from the state leagues that we haven't heard of. That would be good. Just get someone that can make a difference now, that can add to our depth. Don't worry about project players. That's my opinion.
What about what's his name? Name escapes me. Brother of the 2, McCartan.
Yes,
McCartan. Like he's a key position player in
Defender,
the same with
yeah.
Geelong as well, with the same side. Didn't mention him, but I heard he was linked about a month ago to the Pies.
Yeah, he was too. And another player that hasn't really been talked about being linked with us in the last couple of weeks, like a Kruger. But yeah, he's another one that I wouldn't mind getting because we need that key defender depth. So yeah, I would probably have him ahead of someone like a Riley Mason too. But yeah, just stay away from the development players. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so too. Like, when you read it, I know there's been a lot of mid-season picks over the years, but the list you read out really have had an impact. Whereas the young guys, as you said, I don't think they've had a big impact.
They haven't.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd rather go to mature player. And yeah, the thing that's still screaming out of Collingwood is key position depth. That's our. I think that could be potentially our Achilles
Key,
heel.
key position depth or key defender
Sorry,
depth?
that's what I meant. Sorry, key position, defend, and depth.
Hmm.
So if Moore goes down long term again, or Billy Frampton were to get injured, or we haven't got a lot to cover that. So yeah, I agree,
You agree. Thank you.
100%.
All right. Anything else you want to bring up in hot topics, or can we get on to the votes?
We can get onto the votes. I think. Yeah. Yeah, Cam Mooney. I don't like his gangster hugs. You notice after every Cam Mooney interview on the ground, he gives that kind of gangster hug and impartiality, Cam. It doesn't. You need to be impartial as a journalist. Like, I've noticed in the last few weeks, and he always does it. I want a journalist that maybe asks the tough questions occasionally and isn't compromised because he looks like he's best mates with everybody. Yeah.
Let's get into the Julian Rowe medal.
Been pretty good, Julian Rowe. He's been better than pretty good. He's been a forward that has presented for them today.
All right. So it's funny. At halftime, I was struggling to give many players votes. But by the end of the game, I've given my full 60. There was a lot of players that had really good second halves to get us from what looked like a losing position to winning by 45 points. So I've given two players 3 votes. One of them being Bo McCreary. He had the 14 disposals, 24 pressure acts, 8 inside 50s, 484 meters gained, and 7 scoring involvements. The thing I like about McCreary is he's now getting the 15, 14 sort of disposals, but he's now having more impact of those disposals. Meters gained, score involvements, inside 50s. When he's in the midfield, he now gets the odd clearance as well. So he's doing a lot more with his 14 disposals than what he was previously doing a month ago. So really liking what Bo's given us at the moment. 3 votes to Jack Crisp, who I absolutely slammed at halftime to you. He had 3 disposals to halftime, and he needed to respond, and he really did. He only ended up with the 16 disposals, so he had the 13 in the second half, but made a huge impact. When you look at, he had 10 tackles, he had 27 pressure acts, he had 11 score involvements, which all came in the second half. He had 3 goal assists, and he kicked 1 goal of his own. So what he was able to do in the second half was respond after what was a really, really poor first half. So 3 votes to Crispy. 3 votes to another player as well, and that is Ed Allen. Had the 24 disposals, 8 tackles, 6 intercept possessions, and 7 scoring involvements. I've then given 4 votes to Tim Membry, despite doing nothing. What does he bring us? He had the 10 disposals, the 7 marks, the 8 score involvements, and 3 goals too.
I crossed it out, in fairness.
I've then given 5 votes to Isaac Quainer. The first time in our time doing the votes that I've given him any votes. So what's that? A year and a half without giving Isaac Quainer a vote. I've now given him 5. His best game for a long time. He had the 23 disposals, a team high 8 marks, 5 tackles, 430 meters gained, and a game high 10 intercept possessions. I'm sure Michael later on will want to bring up a story that I ranted hard about Isaac Quainer at halftime, and now I've given him 5 votes. So,
well, you just did it for me. He was playing a lot on Curtis, and Curtis always looked dangerous. He always looked like he was about to do something, Curtis, but he never actually did. He took the one mark in the goal square where he brushed Quainer off and was able to kind of impact there. But I think he did a good job overall.
Yeah, you can talk about him in your votes. These are my votes.
Okay. We'll just edit that out, Dermot, like you do with most of my stuff.
Billy Frampton, 7 votes. 8 disposals. He had 5 intercept possessions, a game high 12 spoils, and kept Nick Larkey to 1 goal, which is the key point. I then have 2 players that got 8 votes. Jamie Elliott, he had 11 disposals, 5 marks, 5 tackles, 8 scoring involvements, and 5 goals straight. Can't believe that we didn't talk about Jamie in the hot topics. He just keeps on getting it done, doesn't he? He's having a career best season. Absolutely remarkable at his age, especially when Michael said his career was over about 2 years ago.
I was just waiting for it, yes.
And then Josh Dacos, 8 votes as well. He had the 31 disposals, 644 metres gained, and 9 scoring involvements.
Who was that, sorry?
Josh Dacos.
Josh Dacos, right, sorry.
And then Nick Dacos, 9 votes. He had a game high 38 disposals. He had 5 clearances, a game high 12 inside 50s, A team high 736 metres gained. He had 12 score involvements and 2 goal assists. So he basically just grabbed this game by the scruff in that second half and got us over the line. I've then given best on ground to Ned Long over Nick Dacos, and I've given him 10 votes.
Yeah, it's too much.
I just think when you read this out, he played this game perfectly, and he was the not one guy, probably alongside Josh Dacos and Billy Frampton that played 4 quarters of football. He had 29 disposals, a team high 13 contested possessions, a game high 14 tackles, a game high 30 pressure acts, an equal team high 6 clearances, a game high 15 score involvements, and 2 goal assists. When you ask him for players to play their role, he played his role perfectly. And if he plays his role perfectly, for me, that is a 10-vote game. He deserves it.
You leave yourself nowhere to go. So what happens if a guy has a similar game, but he also piles on 3 goals in the midfield? That's a 10. That's a 10.
I think he played his game perfectly. Yeah. So when you lead the game for contested possessions and tackles, 14 tackles and pressure acts and clearances, and have a game high score involvements, you can't ask for any more than that. He kept us in the game for the first half, and he continued the form into the second half.
I already said that.
That's a 10-vote game. So for me, that's Ned Long 10, Nick Dacos 9, Josh Dacos 8, Jamie Elliott 8, Frampton 7, Quainer 5, Membry 4, Ed Allen 3, Crisp 3, and McCreary 3.
Right. I've got a total of 56 votes.
Okay.
I've got 4 players on 8 votes. That's the 2 Dacoses, Elliott and Ned Long. 8 votes each. You then get Billy Frampton on 7. A couple of players on 6 votes, McCreary and Ed Allen. And Quaynor on 5 votes. So that's the 2 Dacoses on 8, Elliott on 8, Long on 8, Frampton on 7, McCreary and Allen on 6, and Quaynor on 5 votes for a total of 56. 14 tackles for Ned Long. You mentioned that, didn't you?
Yes, multiple times.
Did you? Yes. Well, yeah. That's it.
All right. Let's get into Who Am I? Who am I? Nick, you're confident with today's Who Am I? You just said.
You said, you said, do you have it? And I said, yes. And you said, well, you don't seem very confident. What do you mean? If I'm confident, I've got it written down in front of me. Yes, I do.
Get on with it. So at the moment, we're 6-all. 6 apiece. Let's see if I can get my nose in front.
Rightio. So for 5 points.
You almost said votes again.
I know.
You always do that.
I've got a lot of trouble with that.
It's because we go straight from the medal to this.
Yeah. 5 points. Sharing the same surname as a Scottish poet and lyricist from the 18th century.
That's not fair. You know, how the fuck am I meant to know that?
Think about your Scottish poets from the 1800s.
This is
the 1700s. Sorry, 18th century.
You're joking.
To clarify, it was the 18th century, so the 1700s.
You're joking, right?
Just think of your Scottish poets.
Yeah, go. Read the whole question.
That was it.
Oh, what? Well, read it again.
Now,
that's not fair. That is crap, Michael. That's not a question.
He's very famous. We'll touch on
Read the full question. Read the full question.
That is it.
Read it again.
I knew you were going to spit the dummy.
This is bullshit.
I know about as much about the Scottish game of golf as you do about Scottish poetry. Yet that was one of my questions a few weeks back. Shares the same surname as an Australian golfer.
Yeah,
it was Ed Allen, Flynn Appleby, and Stu Appleby.
But the question also, I had more to it than just that.
I've got an alternative fifth question because I just wanted to make that point.
Fuck, that was
okay.
Right, okay, go.
For 5 points. Played 63 games for Norwood between 92 and 94.
92.
Played 63 games for Norwood.
92 and 94.
92 and 94.
So he's South Australian, or he just happened to play?
That's the question.
Because Scotty Burns comes to mind, but it won't be Scotty Burns because he's too well known. Move on.
For 4 points as opposed to votes. taken by the Pies with pick 90 in the 92 national draft.
Okay, so he was at the Pies before Norwood. Is that right?
I'll recap. Played 63 games for Norwood between 92 and 94. Taken by the Pies with pick 90 in the 92 national draft. So sounds like he didn't come across straight away.
Right. Okay. So he was on Collingwood's list and then played for Norwood. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's where you come in.
Move on to the next one then.
Okay.
I'm not going to get it.
But it sounds like that, doesn't it?
It does sound like that.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. For 3 points.
Points.
Debuted in 95, playing all but one game.
Honestly, I think Scotty Burns debuted in 95. But it couldn't be. You couldn't be going a guy like Scotty Burns, could you? You just couldn't. I'm not risking it yet, but he is in my mind. Maybe you're playing tricks with me, and it is actually a well-known player. 95, South Australia. No, you're going to have to go to 2.
The 2 points. Second in the 96 BNF.
Oh, jeez. Is it bloody Scotty Burns? Fuck, so I literally, if it's Scotty Burns, did I say it after 5 and now I'm down to 2? And your questions are not going into great depth, which is what you did with Peter Dacos, because he was a well-known player. All right, let's just go Scotty Burns.
For 1 point, appointed vice captain in 99.
I think it's Scotty Burns.
In 02, second again in the BMF.
Yeah.
With 505 possessions and 28
It's
goals.
Scotty, isn't it?
I am Scotty Burns.
Oh, I could have got it at 5.
Well, I'm the person who gave you our most famous player ever, Peter Dacos, and yet you didn't think I'd give you Scotty Burns? You had his number on your jumper growing up.
Yeah, because you made me. I like Scotty Burns, but I wanted Bucks' number, and you forced me to get 17.
Robert Burns, old Lang Syne. Should old acquaintance be
I
forgot
can't believe that. I could have got a
and never come
5-pointer. I could have got a 5-pointer.
I gave you freaking Robert Burns.
I could have got a 5-pointer.
You could have got a...
But I just thought...
You weren't brave enough.
Oh, well,
You weren't brave enough.
So what was the story behind Scotty Burns playing at Norwood when he was on Collingwood's list?
I don't know the story behind it, but we got him in the 92 draft, but he stayed in South Australia for a couple of years and didn't debut until 95.
I'll tell you what, I should be pumped that I've now got an 8-6 lead on you, but what could have been? That could have been our first 5-pointer if I had the guts to go.
You didn't have the guts.
What was the 4-point? I can't remember. Either way.
The 4-pointer was taken by the Pies with pick 90 in the 92 national draft. I think I would have got that. Had I been in your... I reckon I would have got it.
I don't reckon. You're pretty bad at this.
Oh, well, don't get me started again about the... About the yeah.
About the what? You don't even know what you're talking about.
I do know what I'm not going to mention what's happened in the past
because there's nothing to mention
in terms of getting ripped off on more than one occasion. Yeah, there you go.
And the best thing is now that if Luke agrees to come onto our podcast in the future, he can now tell you how annoying you are to your face.
Yes, look forward to that. There you go. So that's who am I? Who am I?
Who am I? All right, we're gonna wrap this up in a sec, but we'll do a mini preview of the Hawks game. When I say preview, more just a tip. It's a big game because I feel like after this, our fixture really does open up. Oh, I can't be bothered looking at it, but I know Melbourne's in there, West Coast is in there. I think maybe even St Kilda. So this might be the last tough game we have for a while. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just wondering when I get my present.
Oh, yeah, I'll get it for you.
This
the New Zealand hat.
Yes, as regular listeners will know, this is another present Dermot's got me. Last year was the famous kettle incident, where I didn't at the time. I didn't drink tea or coffee. Yet Dermot got me a present of a kettle. Surprise, surprise! Dermot drinks tea or coffee. This year, after taking care of Dermot's house for a week while he's on long service leave, feeding his cats, cleaning up after them, starting his car every day, driving an extra 60 kilometres to work, he's got me a hat made in China. It's
a New Zealand hat, a Queenstown hat.
Made in China. And his mother, who did none of that, also gets a hat.
No, that's not a hat. It's a different gift.
Oh, she's got a different gift?
Yeah, well...
probably better.
I can't say. Okay, she's tuning in, which she won't be. But It's a little. I went to the Kiwi park, as you know. It's a little Kiwi toy, and you press its gut and it makes a Kiwi noise.
You're a very generous individual. Though.
That's expensive.
You're very generous.
They're all bloody expensive. Queenstown, it costs an absolute fortune over there. Like,
Yeah, you wouldn't have got much change out of $15 for my hat.
it's better. It was a lot more than that. I won't go into that. It's a lot better than this plain black hat that you're wearing now. I want you to be wearing it for the next podcast. Actually, the New Zealand, because you refuse to wear anything Collingwood for a Collingwood podcast.
I don't like paraphernalia. I'm not here as a walking billboard.
Give us a tip for next week.
Right. Hawthorn. Well, it's traditional that we drop this one. Hawthorn, just in my lifetime, no matter how good they've been or bad we've been or vice versa, they've always managed to make it very hard for us and usually beat us. And on that basis, I'm going for Hawthorn. I reckon we're obviously due for a loss because we keep on winning. I think they might roll us.
I have a bad feeling too because they, like you said, they always do, don't they? Even when they're shit and we're good, they find a way to beat us.
Yeah.
We do have a lot coming back, and they're going to be fresh and ready to go. And it's our last game before the bye. No, it isn't. We play Melbourne, then the bye. Yeah. I'm going to tip the Pies. Pies by 4 points. I'm not confident.
Yeah. Hawthorn by 17.
Okay. Righto. Fair enough. All right. So.
Oh, Tom McGuire watch. Nothing to report. What are we? 11 weeks in? Third bye. His club had. He didn't play last week. Jesus.
Before we wrap it up, we just touch on what we talked about earlier in the podcast. So with the new monthly Tuesday pod, I want a name for it as well. So there's a challenge for you, Mick, to come up with a name for this bonus episode, but also to our listeners, if they can come up with a good name. I thought about the round table. It's a table. But I feel like that's also, is that a name of a show or a podcast already? You know what I like? I like the coaches panel because it's a panel of wannabe coaches, but that's actually the name of a fantasy podcast I listen to. So I feel like that's copying.
You're not to come up with a name.
I want a good name. Put your thinking cap on, you two listeners. But yeah, anyone that wants to get involved, send us a message. Make sure you're semi-confident behind the mic.
Because we're such professionals.
Well, no,
we don't want you bringing down his professionalism.
Basically, if we can do it, you can do it. But if you're a little bit more on the shy side, then maybe this isn't for you. Because there's going to be a bit of talking. So yeah, every Tuesday night, I think we probably want to kick off at about 7:30. Give us enough time for people to come home from work, have dinner, whatever. Goes for an hour. We'll wrap it up at about 8:30.
I'm reluctant to talk about this anymore. But didn't you just say every Tuesday? It's not every Tuesday.
Shit. Sorry.
No, it's
the first month of every Tuesday.
No, you say
the first month of every Tuesday. What am I doing?
First Tuesday.
The first Tuesday of every month.
Let me handle this just before. So we've got this little thing going. So it's going to be the first Tuesday of every month, and then later on the year, come finals, or as we approach finals, it might be extended out further at that point.
Every week at that point in September, when we
yeah.
God, I fucking butchered that, didn't I?
Yeah.
But yeah, Andreas, Grubman, and Luke, get back to me. Everyone else,
Yeah, really. Let's just wind this up. You're struggling.
Any final words, Mick?
No. I've got my touched on my car, but we won't do it this week.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channels on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you want to follow our socials, you can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Thanks for listening. We look forward to doing it again next week. See ya.